My husband said I was too ordinary to attend his work gala, so I taught him a lesson he'll never forget. I stepped into the gala, my heels clicking against the marble floor. The room shimmered under the golden chandeliers, the air thick with the scent of expensive cologne and champagne. Then, it happened. Conversations faltered, heads turned. A few whispers rippled through the crowd. Some people tried to be subtle about it, sneaking glances over their glasses while others openly stared. And then there was him, Mark, standing among his colleagues, looking as polished and composed as ever. Except this time, his usual easy confidence was gone. His fingers tensed around his drink, his lips parted slightly in shock before he masked it with a stiff smile. For a brief, glorious moment, he looked unnerved. I smiled. Slow, deliberate. A few days ago, this man, the one I had spent 8 years supporting, loving, believing in, had told me to my face that I was too ordinary to be here. Well, guess what, Mark? I'm here. Let's rewind. It started 5 days ago. Mark, my husband of nearly a decade, walked into our living room, holding a sleek black invitation between his fingers. I looked up from my laptop, smiling. Big event coming up, he said, tossing the card onto the coffee table. Annual corporate gala. It's a pretty major deal this year. I picked up the invitation, running my fingers over the embossed gold lettering. That sounds amazing. What should I wear? Silence, just a second too long. I looked up and caught the hesitation in his expression. The way his jaw tightened ever so slightly, how he seemed to choose his next words carefully, like stepping around a landmine. And then he spoke. Actually, I don't think you should come to this one. I frowned. Why not? I always go to your work events. He sighed, shifting in place, clearly uncomfortable. Yeah, but this one is different. It's like, really high class. The wives of the other executives, they have this presence, you know? They just fit into that world. I blinked. Are you saying I don't? Mark exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck like this conversation was somehow exhausting him. Babe, you're great, okay? But you're just kind of ordinary, and that's not a bad thing. That's what I love about you. You're down to earth, you don't care about designer labels or impressing people, but at an event like this, people notice things. They'll look at us and wonder why I'm with someone who doesn't quite match the room. I felt my stomach drop. Ordinary. The word sat between us, heavy, suffocating. I searched his face, waiting for some sign that he realized how cruel that sounded, that he understood how deeply it cut. Nothing. I should have said something. Called him out for being an arrogant, shallow, status-obsessed asshole. But instead, I just swallowed the lump in my throat and forced a small, tight smile. You know what, you're right. Maybe I shouldn't go. Mark looked relieved, like I had just done him a favor. I knew you'd understand, he said, pressing a quick kiss to my forehead before heading upstairs, completely oblivious to the storm brewing inside me. I sat there long after he was gone, his words playing on repeat in my head. Ordinary. Not good enough. A liability to his image. And that was the moment something inside me snapped. I wasn't gonna cry. I wasn't gonna argue. I was gonna show him exactly how wrong he was. I don't know what Mark expected me to do after he called me ordinary. Maybe he thought I'd sulk for a day or two, then move on, accepting my place in his world. Maybe he assumed I'd stay home while he attended the gala, playing the perfect, supportive but invisible wife. What he didn't know was that I had already made up my mind. I wasn't just going to attend the gala. I was going to make sure that when I walked into that ballroom, everyone, including Mark, would know exactly who the hell I was. I didn't need a whole personality transplant to prove my worth. I just needed to show him what he had been too blind to see all along. First, I called my friend Rachel. Rachel is the kind of woman who can walk into a room and command attention without saying a word. She's always dressed impeccably, always poised, always in control. If anyone knew how to make a statement, it was her. I told her everything, every single humiliating word Mark had said. There was a long silence on the phone before she responded. Oh, hell no. We are fixing this. Get your ass to my place, now. 2 hours later, I was standing in front of a mirror in Rachel's walk-in closet, staring at the version of myself I should have been seeing all along. I wasn't ordinary. I had just been dimmed by years of playing small for a man who never really saw me. I picked a dress that was elegant but effortless, deep emerald silk, form-fitting but not over the top, with a neckline that said powerful rather than desperate for attention. Rachel's personal stylist worked magic on my hair, giving it soft waves that framed my face perfectly. Then came the makeup. Not too much, just enough. Enough to make my eyes sharper, my cheekbones more defined, my lips a shade darker than my usual gloss. And the finishing touch? A pair of black stilettos that screamed confidence. I looked at myself in the mirror and felt something shift. This is who I've always been. I just forgot. I knew where the gala was being held. I knew the exact time it started. Mark thought I was going to stay home, probably scrolling through Netflix with a pint of ice cream. He had no idea that I had already arranged my own invitation. Turns out, one of my biggest marketing clients was connected to the company hosting the event. A few well-placed conversations, and boom, I had my own reason to be there. I wouldn't just be attending as Mark's wife, I was attending as a professional in my own right. I timed it perfectly. Mark had already been at the event for an hour when I arrived. I walked through the doors, my heels clicking against the marble floor. And just like that, the room changed. The conversations didn't stop completely, but I felt the shift. Eyes flickered in my direction, people whispered. I caught a few stolen glances, some of admiration, some of curiosity. And then I saw him. Mark was standing with a group of executives, a drink in his hand. He was mid-conversation when he turned his head and spotted me. His expression froze. I watched, savoring every second as his jaw tensed, his grip tightening around his glass. His lips parted slightly, like he wanted to say something. But no words came out. For the first time in our marriage, he was speechless. I didn't acknowledge him right away. Instead, I walked past him, and headed straight for a group of people I had already planned to introduce myself to. I wasn't here for Mark. I was here for me. I spent the next hour networking, making connections, and, ironically, earning more respect in that one night than Mark probably had in years. People who had never looked twice at me before were suddenly interested. Executives asked about my work. Investors listened to my ideas. One of the most influential women in the room pulled me aside to compliment my confidence. And Mark? Mark spent the night watching, hovering, trying to catch my attention. At one point, he finally managed to pull me aside. His voice was low, controlled, but I could hear the tension beneath it. "What are you doing here?" I took a sip of my champagne and met his gaze, completely unfazed. "Oh, I just thought I'd see if I was really too ordinary for this place." The flicker of guilt in his eyes? Priceless. The night after the gala, Mark barely spoke to me. When we got home, he loosened his tie, poured himself a drink, and sat in silence. The tension in the room was thick, but I wasn't going to be the first to speak. Finally, after what felt like forever, he sighed and looked at me. "What was that?" I raised an eyebrow. "What was what?" "You showing up like that, looking like that." I let out a small, amused chuckle. "Looking like what, Mark? Like I belonged?" His jaw clenched. "That's not what I meant." "Oh, I think it is," I said, sitting down across from him. "You thought I wasn't polished enough, wasn't high-class enough, wasn't good enough to stand beside you in that room. And yet, from the moment I walked in, I had more people wanting to talk to me than you did." That hit a nerve. He downed his drink and placed the glass down a little too hard. "That's not the point. You embarrassed me." I stared at him, stunned for a second. "Embarrassed him?" "Let me get this straight," I said, my voice calm but razor sharp. "You told me I wasn't worthy of attending. You dismissed me, assumed I'd stay home like some obedient little housewife. And when I prove you wrong, when I walk in there and command attention on my own terms, that's what embarrasses you." Mark ran a hand through his hair, clearly frustrated. "You made it look like I was keeping you a secret or something." I let out a bitter laugh. "Weren't you?" Silence. That was the moment I knew. It was never about the gala. Never about me fitting in or not. Mark had spent years building an image of himself. A powerful, successful man with the perfect connections, the perfect career, the perfect life. And in his mind, I was fine as a supporting character in that image, so long as I stayed in the background. The second I stepped into my own spotlight, he hated it. Over the next few days, Mark was different. Not angry. Worried. At first, he tried to brush everything under the rug, like nothing had happened. But I wasn't stupid. I noticed how he watched me more carefully, how he hesitated before speaking, like he was trying to figure out who I had become overnight. I hadn't changed. I had just stopped playing small. Then one night, everything fell apart. Mark came home late, looking stressed. He poured himself another drink, he had been drinking more than usual lately, sat down, and out of nowhere he said, "Did you talk to Dan at the gala?" Dan? One of the high-level executives at his company? I thought back. I had, actually. Dan had approached me, asked about my work, seemed genuinely impressed. We had talked for maybe 15 minutes before moving on to other conversations. I nodded. "Yeah, why?" Mark exhaled through his nose. He looked pissed. "He offered you a job, didn't he?" I froze. "Excuse me?" "Dan, he offered you a position, didn't he? Or at least hinted at one." I laughed, shaking my head. "No, he said my marketing firm was doing great and that he'd love to collaborate. That's it. Why are you acting like I stole your promotion or something?" Mark ran a hand down his face, clearly irritated. "Because now they see you as someone valuable, someone independent, and that changes things." It hit me like a truck. This wasn't about the gala. This wasn't even about me. This was about control. Mark had spent our whole marriage being the important one. The ambitious one. The one with the power. He had been perfectly comfortable with me being just his wife. Someone supportive, someone loving, but never someone who could overshadow him. And now, for the first time, people in his world were looking at me, not as his wife, as a woman who could stand on her own. And he hated it. A week passed. Mark and I barely spoke. I wasn't angry anymore. I was just done. Done feeling like I had to shrink myself to make him feel big. Then one evening, I got a text. "Dan, hey, our team would love to discuss a potential collaboration with you. Let's set up a meeting next week?" I smiled, not because of the opportunity, though it was huge, but because for the first time in years, I felt seen, respected. Not just as Mark's wife, as me. I went upstairs and found Mark in our bedroom, scrolling through his phone. I sat on the edge of the bed. I got a text from Dan. He looked up immediately. His face darkened. "And?" I took a deep breath. I needed to know. "Are you happy for me?" I asked softly. "Honestly?" Silence. He opened his mouth, then closed it. He looked away. That was all the answer I needed. I stood up. My voice was steady, calm, certain. "I'm taking the meeting," I said simply. "And I think I'm done making myself small for you." His head snapped up. "What the hell does that mean?" I turned to leave the room. "You'll figure it out soon enough." And I meant it. I don't know what I expected after I told Mark I was done making myself small for him. Maybe a fight? Maybe a pathetic attempt at an apology. Maybe even a desperate last-minute declaration of love. What I didn't expect? Silence. For the next few days, Mark barely spoke to me. He avoided eye contact, stayed out late, and acted as if he was the one who had been wronged. It was almost laughable, but I didn't care anymore. Because I was finally free. 2 weeks after the gala, I had my meeting with Dan and his team. It wasn't just a casual business chat, it was a life-changing opportunity. Dan's company wanted me to lead their entire marketing division. A position with triple my current salary, full creative control, and the chance to work with some of the biggest names in the industry. I was floored. Dan smiled when he saw my shock. "I knew you were sharp the moment I spoke to you. The way you carried yourself at the gala, confident, professional, composed, that's the kind of leadership we need." I thought back to Mark's words. "You're just kinda ordinary." Guess who didn't think I was ordinary? Dan. His company. And honestly, me. I didn't accept the offer right away. Not because I wasn't interested, but because I wanted to do one final thing before making my decision. I wanted to watch Mark squirm. That evening, Mark came home looking exhausted. His company had been in a rough patch, and I could tell from the way he rubbed his temples that he was stressed. Perfect timing. I waited until he sat down on the couch before casually saying, "Oh, by the way, I got a job offer today." Mark barely looked up. "Huh? From where?" I smiled sweetly. "Dan's company." His entire body stiffened. "What?" I leaned against the kitchen counter, watching him. "He wants me to lead their marketing division. It's a huge step up, better pay, more flexibility, and honestly, it's something I deserve." Silence. Mark put his glass down slowly, his jaw clenching. "You can't be serious." "Oh, I am." His lips pressed into a thin line. "You can't take that job." I raised an eyebrow. "Why not?" "Because it'll look bad. You can't just go work for someone in my professional circle. People will think I couldn't provide for my own wife." I laughed. Actually laughed. That's what you're worried about? Your image? Not my success, not my happiness, just how it'll make you look? Mark's silence told me everything I needed to know. I took a deep breath and gave him the final blow. I already accepted the offer, Mark. His head snapped up. Panic. Pure, genuine panic flashed across his face. You what? I start next month. His face went pale. But, you can't. That job is too big for me? I finished for him. Because that's what you thought, right? That I'd never be anything more than your ordinary wife? Mark didn't answer. He didn't need to. I grabbed my purse, standing tall. I'm staying at Rachel's for a while. I'll be back for my things. Mark stood up suddenly, reaching for me. Wait, you're leaving? I tilted my head. Why would I stay? You don't respect me. You never did. He hesitated. I didn't think you needed more. I nodded slowly, feeling nothing but relief. Yeah, that's the problem. And with that, I walked out the door. It's been 6 months since I left. Mark tried to reach out a few times, first with passive-aggressive texts, then with attempts at apologies, and finally, with desperate pleas. I never responded. Meanwhile, I'm thriving. I moved into a beautiful apartment. My new job is everything I could have hoped for. I've met incredible people, taken on projects that challenge me, and most importantly, I've rediscovered myself. And Mark, last I heard, his career has hit a rough patch. Turns out, when you spend all your time trying to impress people instead of respecting the one person who was always in your corner, you end up alone. I used to think my biggest mistake was not being enough for Mark. But I realize now my real mistake was believing him when he made me feel small. So, to anyone reading this who has ever been made to feel ordinary, you are not ordinary. You are extraordinary. And the second you realize that, no one will ever be able to dim your light again.